February 24th, 2023. Mostly just a Friday. In Romania, traditionally we celebrate the ancient day of love, Dragobetele. For Ukraine, it is exactly the opposite. Today we commemorate 1 year since the Russian special operation was initiated. A year during which 8 million fled to other countries and 6 million are internally displaced. The material damage is estimated to 600 billion euros or $634 billion. When the war debuted, following the initial shock, Europeans and the whole world mobilized to help as much as they could. Food, clothes, accommodation, and even a shoulder to cry on was offered. For over a year, near my children's school lives a group of Ukrainian women with their children. Most of the men remained behind. Overnight, Romania became the guardian of the European border to a conflict zone. The stress levels are rather high. Including the border with Moldova and the Black Sea shoreline, my country has 36.6% border exposure to a potential conflict. At inflexion points of the war, iodine pills were provided through family doctors just in case a nuclear strike would happen. Besides being the first invasion of this scale since the Second World War, the conflict is also the first one reported almost in real time. Technology plays a role, and besides live streams and updates from the front line, the hackers have their say too. Prior to the invasion, hacker collectives supported or hired by the Russian intelligence agencies attacked the Ukrainian cyber infrastructure. GameRedon's server had hundreds of times more activity than normal, mostly distributed denial-of-service attacks targeting governmental and military sites. During those days, ransomware and wiper attacks targeted also military and industrial infrastructure. Probably the most impactful was the attack on Viasat's internet satellite provider, which affected also the operation of German wind turbines. Sometimes benefits can appear from such events as well. The US Senate took steps towards a bill of cybersecurity, and the SpaceX program accelerated its deployment of Starlink. Cyberwar was the norm through 2022, mostly preceding other types of offensive. According to independent reports by ESET, Fortinet and Google-owned Mandiant, the Ukrainian IT infrastructure was hit by more specimens of wiper malware than any other country anywhere and anytime in history. If in the first days of the war, the malware used were high-quality pieces of engineering, lately the quality was replaced by quantity. Sometimes their code seemed just unfinished. Just to have a state of their increase, 12 wiper families were used in comparison with just 2 or 3 normally. The bad news for all of us is that they are used by hackers all over the world. The cyber attacks started even as early as the 2014 Ukrainian Revolution. An unprecedented cyber attack attempted to spoof the results of that year's presidential election and even caused the first ever blackouts triggered by hackers. One of the most terrible cyber weapons released was NotPetya, a self-replicating piece of malware that ended up spreading globally and causing a record $10 billion in damage. Besides industrial and energetic infrastructure, the Russian hackers attacked Ukrinform, the Ukrainian news agency. Disinformation and propaganda are trademarks of the Russian military. Maybe for the rest of the world, Orwell's 1984 is just dystopian literature, but for those of us that lived behind the Iron Curtain, it is yet another fear that awaits in the shadow of conflicts. Actually, even as we speak, Russian threats and disinformation are targeting another country, Moldova. Once part of Romania, it was dragged into the Soviet Union and remained in its sphere of influence ever since. A small part of the country is still under the watchful eye of the Russia's peacekeeping 14th Army ever since 1992. But disinformation doesn't target just other countries. Even Russian citizens get the same treatment. A couple of days back in a stadium in Moscow, a big concert was organized to celebrate the good evolution of the special operation. It is forbidden by law to call it a war. Surprisingly enough, the Ukrainian territory occupied by Russian troops decreased by 10% since last year in March. There are still many to be said about the still unbelievable situation in Ukraine, but I close my report with just Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. The full episode and resources are available on 505updates.com. This was Olimpiu reporting from Transylvania, Romania.
Search for and subscribe to It's 505 wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.